What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS 3 Raw TV. What the fuck? So you can fix the camera angle, make it square, but ever since I tore my pec, my shirts just don't sit right anymore. I think they'll sit off to the side because they have like a hole in my pec over here. It sucks. So, this video, again, an off-topic video, not a fitness video. So I put up the video about the young kid getting beaten by his mom with a belt at his school in public, and my thoughts and feelings on that. And thank you, first of all, for the response. It was a huge positive response to that video that most people felt the same way that I did. There were a few people that were like, no, you should beat your kids. I'm like, fuck it, you'll figure it out or you won't. I mean, whatever. But I was surprised at the amount of people that had contacted me through, mostly through email, that were like, Jerry, like, that's the first time I've seen you articulate yourself with like that type of clarity. You know, it was like an intensity, but a clarity. Like, you know, I've seen it like over the past, like, you know, and they said a couple months, but realistically it's like the last year. That, you know, the way that you present yourself, the way that you speak, everything has changed quite a bit in this year. They said a couple of months, but again, it's been in this year, in 2019. Like, what gives? Like, you know, what's going on? Now, I can attribute it to one thing, is which I'm just trying to, of course, keep my anxiety in check, which helps me think a lot clearer, which I use Delparol, which is actually my supplement from GIFT Labs, which DLPA is a combination of phenylalanine and L-phenylalanine, which there's tons of data out there, but let me just tell you, the data doesn't even do it justice. When I tried it, it was amazing. I combined it with GABA together, just this perfect amount of GABA, which was kind of a pain in the ass getting the right dosage, because too much GABA makes you sleepy, not enough, you don't feel the effects. Like, you had to have that right amount of GABA. So my anxiety's under control now from that, and before that I was using CBD, which allows me to think clearer and put my thoughts together a lot clearer. My mind's not racing as much, because I also have attention deficit disorder, which keeps my mind racing quite a bit. But it can be attributed also to the 5 DMT trips that I've taken this year and the 1 psilocybin trip, mushrooms. Now, before you guys go, what the fuck, Jerry, you're on drugs? Hear me out. Through this spiritual journey, which I've explained to you guys, and I've talked about it, I'm sure you've heard the things coming out of my mouth that just don't seem like the old Jerry anymore, because things are different. And as I was starting to realize this, there is a life hack to get to the next evolution, which you can get there being a monk and meditating and stuff like that, but ADD, I have a hard time concentrating to be able to meditate to get my mind in that place. So these psychedelics are kind of like a cheat code to get you to where you could normally get when you're meditating, etc., but actually can take you beyond those realms and further than most people are meditating. So the first one up was the mushrooms. Now, the one thing we noticed from the mushrooms, for a couple months afterwards, my anxiety was an all-time low with the mushrooms. However, it gave me such a profound... I did use a shaman. A shaman walked me through it. It was not like me tripping fucking go to a club or in the woods or something. It was in a safe environment with a shaman. He walked me through what I was experiencing. And it led me to go, man, this whole time, you know, like, I've had this physical construct, these external constructs and stuff that I didn't really understand, that there is something after it. Like, I understood, but I didn't really understand until the mushrooms kind of, or the psilocybin, I should call it psilocybin, actually showed me that there was something else, right? And I was like, okay, that's, you know, I felt like I got what I needed out of that experience. And I was very, very scared, very afraid, as well as my wife was and my friends around me, that these psychedelics might trigger something in my brain because I had that addiction. And I was like, I don't know. So I did as much research as I could, read as much data as I could, and then just talked to people that had the experiences that also had addiction and asked them if it led them back to that role of addiction or that part of their life. And everyone said no. And I was like, okay, let me just really, I mean, it wasn't a decision I took lightly whatsoever. After the mushrooms, I mean, the mushroom trip I did not find pleasurable. Like, I did not like the feeling that it was. It was like being on ecstasy, ketamine, marijuana. It was kind of like a host of everything together, and then you start hallucinating and you start seeing things, and you go off to hyperspace and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You guys, you know, may or may not understand what the fuck I'm talking about. It's okay. But after that experience, I was like, that's, you know, it's a pretty intense experience. It was pretty awesome. And then I saw this TV show called Kentucky Ayahuasca. Now, I already was aware of ayahuasca through Dorian Yates. A friend of mine, Danny, has done it several times. A few of my other friends have done it several times, and what it can do for you to heal you of attachments that you're carrying around with. That therapy could take 30 years to do. Ayahuasca can do it in one fucking day. So I said, ayahuasca might be the route, you know, because there was stuff I was battling with my dad, that I've always struggled with. right? I've struggled with the fact that I never heard my dad once say he was proud of me, no matter what I did. And not that I was doing incredible things, but I did things that I felt like any father would just be proud of their kid and would just say that, right? And I didn't understand why he never said it. I thought there was something wrong with me. I was broken. I was broken. I wasn't good enough. Then I started to shift to, well, if I was able to accomplish all these things, like becoming a pro wrestler, becoming a championship pro wrestler, you know, becoming a bodybuilder, like doing all these things that, you know, I mean, fighting in karate tournaments and placing in the top 2 in karate tournaments. I was doing things that I thought my dad would be proud of. Never heard it. So I said, maybe it's not me that's broken. Maybe it's him that's broken. And I started to search for answers as to why he may be broken, right? And I went, you know, he had depression, he had anxiety. Maybe that's what it was. Like, I went through all these things. And I said, maybe ayahuasca, because I couldn't let it go. Like, I felt like I let my dad down. I was a bad son. I didn't get back to see him before he died. And despite the fact that I still felt unsure of where I stood with him, because I never heard the words, and it was kind of like I was left floating, kind of waiting for someone to grab me and pull me in. Like, that's what it felt like. So I'm like, maybe ayahuasca is the way. Now, ayahuasca is a big ceremony. It's a multi-hour-long trip. It's like 6 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is. Enter DMT. Now, DMT is the dimethyltryptamine, which is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. However, it lasts a lot longer. And I said, okay, maybe DMT, the short-acting one, before I launch myself on this trip that's going to last 6 hours. Mushrooms is 4 hours. And I didn't really like the 4-hour trip, to be honest with you. I wanted to be done with it in 2 hours, but whatever. So I said, maybe, you know, the DMT, because it's quick acting, that would be a better off, you know, starting with that. And the first couple times, you know, I did wind up in the waiting room the first time, is what it's called. Now, I can't remember specific details, but I recorded every time I came back. I recorded things so I remember things vividly, so I can go back and reference those things, because you forget. It's like a dream. Like, you'll remember it immediately when you come out of it, and then it kind of fades a little bit, and then it kind of goes away, and then you remember little pieces, but that stuff's still locked inside your memory, inside your brain, but you just can't access it for some reason, which is very fucking strange. So the first time I wound up in the waiting room, and this entity just kind of stuck his head out and kind of looked at me, and it was very human-shaped head formed, however, it had no distinguishing features, and it kind of looked at me, and it kind of was going, like, checking me out and stuff. I was like, what the fuck? So when I snapped out of it, I thought I was probably tripping for a couple hours. It was 7 minutes. And I was like, holy shit, that was way more intense than the mushrooms. Like, way far more intense. Like, I don't know if I could handle 4 hours of that, so I'm glad I went DMT and not ayahuasca. The next couple of trips after that, so it, for me and many people, it goes in levels. So you get that kind of check-in room, then they kind of allow you, these entities allow you access into these realms, I guess you would call it. I mean, I know there's different words people describe it. Into the, I think it was the 3rd or 4th trip that I had done. I had actually seen these entities, and these things were so freaky looking and scary looking. I heard in my head, but I didn't hear it. It wasn't a voice, and it was like the words were constructing in my brain to let me know what was going on. And it was, we come in peace. They all come in peace. And I was like, what the fuck? These things, some of them looked like these weird dragons and shit. Some of them were fucking very humanoid. Some of them were like the little grays, like those little alien things. One was like that. He kind of looked around this corner, and I looked at him. He ducked back behind it, and he looked around like he was surprised that I could see him. And I'm thinking to myself, this is fucking weird, because there's all these, and it was almost like that bar in Star Wars where it had all the different aliens hanging out. It was almost like that, because it had so many different entities, so many different things that were coming to see me, to be like, why the fuck is he here? How did he get here? What's he doing here? Which, of course, you know, it's a little trippy. But at the end of that trip, my grandmother appeared. It was to the side of me right here. I was sitting back, and I saw this thing come up, and I turned my, and when you're on DMT and you turn your head, you see different things. It's not like you just turn your head and it all stays the same. As I turned, she came into focus, and it was a very young version of my grandmother. And that young version I had never seen, because when I was born, she'd already had the gray hair, and she was older. Like, this was like maybe in her 20s, maybe 30s, you know. And she said to me, but not said, like I heard it in my head, ask your mom. Like, ask your mom, right? I said, what the fuck? So I go to my mom. Now I have to explain to her that I'm taking this DMT stuff, explain to her what it is. Now, she knows I have the background in addiction. Of course, she knows everything that happened to me with the heroin and stuff. I have to go and tell her, hey, look, I'm tripping on these drugs, which they are plant-based medicines. It's not the same thing as, you know, heroin and stuff like that. So I asked her, you know, what are you supposed to tell me? And she was like, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, let me just think about it. And while we're having this conversation, this is the way DMT works. It prompts you to ask questions about things that you normally wouldn't. And we're talking about dad, and we find out that, or I find out finally, because everybody knew this already in the family, but I guess me and my brother are probably the only two that didn't, that my father was the youngest of 4 boys. He was the fifth, or 4 kids. He was the 5th one. He was the youngest one. So my other 2 uncles, or 3 uncles, and my aunt grew up with their father. Well, when my dad was 8, my grandfather left. So my dad was a really small child when my grandfather left. And he remarried, had a couple more kids, which were his half-brothers and sisters. Now, my grandmother had this boyfriend, his name was Al. And Al helped take care of the family because they were like boyfriend and girlfriend. But back then, like, you didn't really get divorced. And if you did get divorced, you were a divorcee. You don't have a boyfriend. Like, it must have been a really awkward, fucking hard time for that whole family, the way it went down. But now, since the other uncles actually had a father figure in their life and they were older, they got to see what it was like to have a father figure. So therefore, if you actually talk to my uncles and my father, it was like 2 different people. Like, my uncles were kind of all the same. They were like really low-keyed and really soft-spoken and really polite and stuff. And my dad was more of like, rah, like he was cool and chill, but he had like an edge to him. And when he fucking snapped, it was like, holy shit, right? But he had like a different like aura, a different way about him. It was almost like he was raised in 2 different families, right? Which technically it was true. So this guy Al, I don't know much about him. I know his name. I know kind of what he looked like. I know that when he passed away, he left my father and his other brothers his farm, which I remember being about 7 or 8 years old and going, which would be my dad's age when his father left, down to that farm. And they wound up selling that farm, like splitting it, and so selling it and splitting the money between all the kids. But in a nutshell, my dad didn't grow up with a father figure. At least not that was his father, like his brothers did. And I went, wait a minute. I'm like, fuck, this is all making a lot of sense now, right? If my father didn't grow up with that father figure telling him, like, you did a great job, you're very proud of you, right? Even if this guy Al told him those things, it's not his father. It's not like he never knew his father and Al was there. He knew his father up until 8 years old. And then all of a sudden his father was gone. He's taking care of his new family with his new kids. My grandfather eventually got divorced again and remarried a 3rd time, which back in the day, that's really a fucking no-no. That was like, I look back, I'm like, man, he was like a fucking pioneer for divorcing, right? But bottom line is, my dad didn't have that father figure to teach him what it's like to be a father. You know, he had Al, who was a boyfriend. That's not a father. You know, it's not even a stepdad. It's a mom's boyfriend. It's a friend of the family, they used to call him. So you have a friend of the family, but no father, right? Your father was off doing other things. Now, by the time my father was a certain age, my grandfather had like several heart attacks and strokes. His face was all twisted and stuff. He sat in a wheelchair. He was like an old man, like slumped over. So it was like, now he can't even get information from him. He can't even say, hey, Dad, were you proud of me? He can't even do that stuff because he's so fucked up. And that's when I met my grandfather, when he was fucked up like that. So now here you have my dad who's trying to figure out his way based on whatever he learned up until 8 years old from his father. Then another guy steps in who's not his father and tries to take over that, which probably has a whole different set of principles, a whole different set of ideas, a whole different set of a way of doing things. And my father, I guarantee, was left to figure out shit on his own. And I know that because of the DMT. The DMT prompted these questions from my grandmother that gave me all of this information to help me understand my father better, to alleviate the pain that I feel from my dad never telling me that, you know, I'm not saying he never say he loved me. Towards when we were older and I moved away, I got, you know, I love you on the phone very, you know, rarely when I talked to him, he said I love you. Or when I went to leave, he'd say, love you now. And he would hug us, me and Aaron or whatever, and he would cry. He would actually tear up because he didn't want us to leave. So it was like he had all this emotion pent up inside and it wasn't coming out. And tears would come out rather than him just being like, you know, we really miss you. Like he couldn't get it out. Like he was never able to express himself because he wasn't taught that as a kid or through his whole life from his father figure. So couple that with the anxiety and depression that he had, you know, he was struggling. It wasn't that he was a bad person. It wasn't that he didn't care. It was that he didn't know what to do. And he was figuring out as he went along, right? So maybe this guy, Al, was more of a tough guy. I mean, they did a lot of stuff out in the woods and fucking had knives and shit and bow and arrows. Like, maybe he was more of like that man's man, woodsy outdoor. Like, you don't cry when you fall down and stuff. You don't talk about your feelings. I don't know. But that's kind of like, seems where that direction went. And as my mom is telling me about my grandfather leaving, it's all clicking. And I'm like, you have got to be shitting me. I'm 43, and my whole life I've been harboring these feelings because I thought my father, not that he didn't love me, and not that whatsoever, but like I never made him proud. Like he wasn't happy to have me. You know what I mean? He loved me, but he wasn't happy to have me, right? And my mom will say stuff like, well, you know that all he wore was his John Cena shirts and he wore his BioS3 shirts. Like, and that's true. I saw him wearing the Biosphere shirts. I'd send him new ones when I got new ones, like whatever graphics they are. And people would ask him at the supermarket, like, oh, what's that? And he'd be like, that's my son's company. And she said, he would say it with such pride. I said, but right. But saying all that stuff when I'm not around doesn't do any good because technically I'm the one that needs to hear it. But he didn't know. Like, he was telling them how proud he was because he was proud. Because someone asked him, right? So if I had prompted him and said, Dad, are you proud of me? He probably would have been like, what? Yes, of course. But I would have had to have prompted him. How the fuck would I know that? You know what I mean? I was a kid. Why would I, and then as I get older, you don't want to beg somebody to be proud of you. You don't want to be like, are you proud of me? Please say you're proud of me. Like, you don't want to do that. So you just kind of, I explained it to my mom. Like, my mom tells, it will be like the first one, I love you, I'm proud of you, you're doing a great job. My mom, you could be anything you want, anytime. Like, you're special. Like, my mom, that was my mom. She did all that stuff. Like, she did all the stuff the mom's supposed to do, right? And I look at it like a pegboard. There's like holes, and you put the little like screws in the pegboard, like the stuff that you hang stuff on at stores when I was a little kid, pegboards. And Dad's pegs are empty because the pegs never went in. So my mom can say as many times the things that my dad should have said, but those are my mom's pegs and they're already full. My dad's pegs need to be full, and they'll never be full because he's dead. So how do you fill those pegs? Because those pegs haunt you. Those pegs work on your self-esteem. They keep you down from trying to be the most that you can be because you think that you can't do it. Like, they really do set a tone for who you are, what you're doing, and how you're going to proceed with who you're going to be. They really do fuck with your psyche, and you don't even realize it because shit that when you were a kid, right? You're an adult. You should know better. Like, what the fuck does that mean you should know better? You only know what you know. And if you don't know it, then you don't know that you don't know it, right? So if your father never said these things to you, you don't know what most kids know that their fathers have told them. You're trying to piece it together and assume. Who the fuck wants to assume that their dad is proud of them? See what I'm saying? Like, but the DMT made me ask the question, made me dig deeper. And my mom, not even knowingly, it was almost like something came over her. Like, she goes, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to talk about. I go, I don't know, I'll think about it. And all of a sudden she just starts spitting out. I'm like, holy shit, that's it. That's it. The DMT, Graham coming to me in the DMT trip was all about finally understanding my dad so I can let go of that weight that I've been carrying my whole life, waiting for my dad to say he was proud of me, and then he died. And it never happened. What am I supposed to do? Go through the rest of my life fucking carrying that weight? It's like a 5,000 pound backpack on my back and I'm climbing up a hill every day. Now I was able to throw the backpack off and walk on flat land because I understood. I said, you've got to be shitting me. This is something that, like, I've been through therapy. I've been through drug addiction. I've medicated myself. I've done fucking everything that the doctors have told me to do. I've been to fucking multiple shrinks, multiple fucking counselors and shit. DMT gave me the fucking insight within 10 minutes of talking to my mom. That's what it did. But it also, there's an aspect of, the DMT has really kind of changed the way I feel, I speak, I carry myself, stuff like that. Being a Freemason also has. Now, as you become a Freemason, you're encouraged to walk as a Freemason. What that basically means is to act like a Freemason at all times, especially when you're wearing the compass and square, but all the time. Like, you are representing Freemasonry, therefore you do the right thing, right? If somebody drops trash on the ground, they don't pick it up, you pick it up and throw it in the trash. If someone cuts you off, you don't throw the finger up and swear at them, you go, and you keep driving. Even if they're yelling at you, right? You choose to do the right thing, you know right from wrong, you choose the higher ground. So with that also comes, with Freemasonry comes the secret parts of Freemasonry. So now you have to learn to choose your words wiser to not let out on these secrets of Freemasonry that you're going to take to your death that only other Freemasons know. Literally, only other Freemasons know. So now you're choosing your words carefully through the Freemasonry, and you have an open mind about the DMT, and your life is kind of getting put back together. You put those two things together, you have somebody that is not open mind but is very enlightened, also carries secrets that are centuries old with them that only other members of that fraternity know, and somebody who puts their thoughts and collects their thoughts together better and thinks before they speak a lot better than they did before. So that is what has been happening to me for the last year. And I got to tell you that I'm happy I did the DMT. I'm happy I did the mushrooms. I don't enjoy the trips. Like, you don't feel good on them. And it's definitely not something you could do often. Mushrooms take a lot out of you. Like, I felt very, very, very drained after that trip. And it was like, probably another day before. I'd fasted 24 hours beforehand. I didn't even have water because the shaman told me to fast. So we didn't say water fast, food fast, so fuck it. I didn't eat or drink anything. So I was really depleted, dehydrated, and stuff like that. Like, you don't feel good, like when you're doing it or when you're done with it. But the payoff is, that's the thing, risk and reward. It's not also risk and reward, it's paying your dues is what it is. Like the ayahuasca, the DMT, they want you to pay your dues. They're not going to give you everything all at once. Like it usually takes multiple trips to get what you want out of that. And it's not like you do it once and you're all set. Matter of fact, there's Kentucky ayahuasca, they had 2 ceremonies, one the night before, and then the one that they really kind of gave them more ayahuasca and let them delve into it, because they introduced them to Mother Aya and let them get used to what a Mother Aya feels like. And says, you may not like what you feel. She's going to show you things you may not want to see. Like, once you go, you're on for the ride. When it's done, then you come back. But beware, you're going for the ride. So they even do it like that. The shamans, and I know the ones in Costa Rica are multiple days long. I think 5 to 6 days long, even 7 days long, the experience, because you can't get everything all in one. It's like drinking from a fire hose. You can only get a little bit at a time. So even though you're drinking from a fire hose, you get one little gulp, one little gulp, one little gulp. That's 7 trips over, however long a period of time it takes you to do it, to get the full aspect of what's going on, and you can't do it just through one. So it's not like a one and done thing. It is a mind expanding experience. It is a soul expanding experience, and I know it's becoming like a popular thing now. Like I'm seeing it pop up everywhere. Like Mike Tyson's doing it, Joe Rogan does it, fucking Dorian Yates does it. Like Russell Brand wants to do it. I'm like, oh shit. Now I'm like, okay, this is something that like people should know about. You know what I mean? I think it's still illegal in some places. Some places it's not. But I advise not breaking any laws if you're doing this shit. Do it someplace where it's legal. Do it with a shaman. Have somebody walk you through it, etc. But the bottom line is these things have absolutely changed my life. I feel for the better. It's actually allowed me to leave physical constructs behind that meant so much to me before. I was so upset when I tore my pec that I couldn't train properly anymore. I was so upset that I couldn't have that physical construct of what I looked like before, right? Like I can't be my best. At 43, I should still be able to be my best. However, that pec tear was probably a sign from God, if you call it, to be like, hey, you're putting too much emphasis on this shit. Yeah, you want to be healthy, you want to look good, you want to fucking have a great quality of life, but you need to start looking deep inside yourself at 43 finally, pal. You need to figure this shit out, because all that stuff, like the fucking, the car and the fucking shoes and the fucking house and the beautiful wife and the fucking great dog and the amazing friends and the businesses you own, the traveling and fucking all this shit that's you're looking at, really means nothing if you can't center yourself and know who you are and know the answer to those questions that fucking you struggle with. If you don't know the answer to those questions, you're going to continue to struggle. And all those things that you've built around you to make this realm what you want it to be a creator and create what you wanted to leave your mark on the world, means nothing if you can't look inside and be happy, not so happy, but content with what's inside and understand who you are. Who am I? I'm the guy whose father's father left him, who didn't know how to treat somebody because he wasn't treated that way himself. Now I understand that. It's like breaking the cycle. It's understanding. It's going, Dad, I forgive everything, and I understand, and I wish you were here for me to say that. I wish you were in front of me right here to say that, so I could say the things that I need to say, and we could have a conversation that was actually worthwhile and productive for both of us to get on the same level, that the remaining time that we had here would have been much more enjoyable. But the DMT teaches you that this is not it. Like, he's out there and I'm going. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, fucking, he's out there and I'll be there soon enough. Whether it's fucking, time is a construct. Like, the time doesn't exist out there. That's why you feel like you're gone on DMT for 6 hours and it's 7 minutes. Like, time completely, when you get into space, that area, the hyperspace area, there is no time. There's no such thing as time. There's nothing living there, right? Living meaning that you're human and alive. There's nothing living. There's energy, and energy technically doesn't live, so it doesn't have time, because it doesn't deconstruct, it doesn't fade, it doesn't die, it just changes forms. It's getting a little deep for many people probably. But anyways, hey, you guys saw the title. It's a DMT video. What the fuck you want from me? So, yeah, thank you guys for noticing. Thank you guys for paying attention to me. Like, Jerry, you're a lot different. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, I am. I am a lot different. And there's a lot of things that I used to take part in, like arguments and shit, and I'll be honest with you, I stopped watching TV pretty much mostly, except for like when I'm done at night, I'll sit down with Brady like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll turn the TV on and I'll look for something on Discovery Channel or, the History Channel or something like that. That's pretty much the stuff that I watch now, except for The Boys. We just started watching The Boys during the night, which is actually a pretty cool fucking show on Amazon Prime. And I completely stopped looking at politics shit around here. Like, I hear things that I don't want to hear because you just fucking keep hearing them. They pop up and you're, oh, fuck, I saw it, shit, like on the gym and the TV and stuff. I feel like there's a lot of things that, I just stopped partaking in that were overloading me with like a lot of negativity and a lot of bullshit that we all get wrapped up in that really means nothing. When you boil down to it, we're all going to wind up in the ground. None of us are getting out alive. However, our energy is going to be out there. Like, it's not going to stay here. So whatever the fuck you're pissed about here is going to be completely left behind. You can't take any of this shit with you. All you take with you is the information, the love, the hate. You take those feelings with you, but you do not take your physical things with you. So why the fuck should I sit around and complain about politics and argue with people about fucking what crayon they should fucking color with, or argue with people about whether they should eat fucking Pop-Tart or chicken breast? I don't give a fuck. That's your journey. You figure that shit out. BowserChang@gmail.com. Leave comments down below. But don't fight BowserChang.com is a blog. It's a DMT bicep. We are out.